It's just time to make some serious changes so this show and this network within can make some serious money. That has always been my goal. It will remain my number one goal. My 1A goal is to use this to support not only the people that are with me, but to support my family. Now, let's go.
I can't do it. We'll do it live. Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Mister, will you please wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up?
Good morning! Snowman here to all you Brock Purdy and San Francisco 49er haters. Shut up! I gotta thank you, Shane.
I mean, whatever happened to the games where breaking 100 points was, I don't know, unusual?
There was one word to sum up the All-Star weekend.
Trays. Cause we take this job so serious.
Splash Brothers, yes. Ray Allen, replace him with Steve Kerr. Reggie Miller, yeah.
What in the all types of blue hell?
Oh yeah! Let's get this party started. Good morning. Welcome to the Twisted Tripped Out Thursday edition of Snowman in the Morning. Glad to have you all with us. Snowman flying solo for the most part, but I got Chris Dietz on the way at the bottom of this hour, and I got Allison Mike Drop Moran at the bottom of the next hour. All right. I'm going to spend, if y'all will allow me, about 3 to 4 minutes. This day, January 30th, 2025, will mark the end of a few things and the implementation of some other things. Let me just start by opening and saying it out loud. There are going to be a lot of changes. And as I said during the cold opening, some of it you're going to like, some of it you're not. But I have to put my crew and my family ahead of any and everything else. And I had a person come to me yesterday and ask me a question. He said, "Are you making money off of this yet?" I said, "Not yet." And I'm glad I said not yet, because a couple people came to me and said, "You know what? I'm giving up this podcasting thing. There's no growth in it." Bullshit. There is growth in it. You just have to find it and trust the right people. And I'm going to be very, very raw for the first few minutes of the show today, so y'all are just going to have to forgive me. Some of the changes involve where we stream this show, because there were quite a few networks, a couple that I've kept, that had a bigger benefit than I did, and I'm one of the main producers of the show. That stops. There are some people that came into the Fanatics feedback zone wondering, what am I doing with my life? That stops. There are some people that promised me personally that they would help grow my show and my channel. Give me this button here. I got to pay some honor to I got to pay some honor to BGS. Okay. As I open the show, I had a couple friends say to me, and they said it out loud, that they were giving up podcasting. They were giving up hosting a sports show because they didn't find any value in it. BGS?
Now that's some bullshit.
And there were some people that came to me and said, I can help you promote your page. BGS, one more time.
Now that's some bullshit.
And that's that. The other changes I will keep to myself. But I just had to speak those aloud and just make everybody aware that I'm going back old school. I'm getting caffeine out of my system once and for all. Because as I found out this morning, it led to a very sharp drop in my energy and it led to a very quick fight with depression. I'll speak about that on my afternoon show. Anything that doesn't benefit myself, my crew, my family, or Snowman Multimedia or Snowman Sportsnet, you are one of the changes. To all the, I didn't start that right. To all the people that are still watching this show and still rocking with me, still rocking with the big dog and the droid and Vicala and Dr. K and everybody else that's involved with this show and with this company, I thank you. To those who are not, because you have been eliminated and been kicked off this bandwagon, you were one of the changes. And that's that.
Mister, how do you operate this Twitter thing or this Instagram thing or whatever the heck? You're supposed to know all this stuff. Anyway, welcome back to the show.
Another thing I'm going to do is reset a project that's very dear to me. It's called Diary of a Mad Snowman. It's an audio book that's going to turn into an actual book. And someone very, very dear to me, Mr. James McCallum, who's been my friend for over 40 years, is going to put the chapters in order. He's going to put the subjects in order. And I'm going to get back to recording. Another thing I'm going to pursue is doing voice work. So all that I'll talk about a little bit later on in the I'll talk about that a little bit later on in the afternoon. Now, it is 17 after the hour. That's another thing I'm doing. I'm going back old school with it. That means breaks at the top of the bottom of the hour will require an ID because I'm running this on my radio station and my internet radio station and internet radio network, and anyone that wants to pick it up, be it television or audio or whatever, there's a fee attached to it. All right, down to business. Roger Craig is not in the Hall of Fame, and it's bullshit. Let's talk about it, shall we? Roger Craig is not in the Hall of Fame, which is stupid to me. Which, man, give me this button. I'm going to wear this button out, but I don't care. Give me this button. Roger Craig not in the Hall of Fame.
Now that's some bullshit.
It is bullshit. It's stupid. He was the first running back in NFL history with 1,000 season. The year was 1985, and he achieved said season against the Dallas Cowboys. All right? And he doesn't have a gold jacket for that. I'll tell you the exact play why he doesn't have a gold jacket for that. The year was 1991, January 13th, 1991. The scene was Candlestick Park. A fumble in an attempt to seal the game. The Niners were leading 13-12 against the New York Football Giants. And this is one of the most fabulous championship games I've ever seen because it was hard hitting from the beginning. Lawrence Taylor knocked the ball out, recovered it. The Giants drove it down, wore out the clock. Matt Barr, whom I playfully hate forever, kicked the game-winning field goal as time expired. Giants win 15-13 and stop San Francisco from even an attempt at a three-peat. Because of that play, in my opinion, Roger Craig will never see the Hall of Fame. And it's stupid. It's stupid. You're going to honor Marshall Faulk, who was tremendous. Don't get it twisted. Marshall Faulk was tremendous. You're going to honor Marshall Faulk with a gold jacket because he repeated the same feat and won less Super Bowls, by the way. Roger Craig has 3 titles. Marshall only has 1. And that came with the greatest show on turf in the St. Louis Rams in 1999. You're going to waste what Roger Craig did, what he meant to the 49ers and that 49er offense. And don't get it. Dang nabbit. Don't get it twisted. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Don't get it twisted. I know there was Montana, there was Jerry Rice, there was John Taylor, there was Brent Jones, there was Tom Rathman, there was who else? Who was before Roger Craig? There was Wendell Tyler. All right, there was that offensive line, there was the defense, Ronnie Lott, Charles Haley. I get all that. But if you're going to honor all of those guys, why don't you honor the guy that was the most integral part to the offense? That was Roger Craig. Anybody who has done any kind of studying whatsoever, will realize that Roger Craig meant a whole lot to that San Francisco offense. Why? Because if you look at the way that the West Coast offense should be run, and the West Coast offense was developed by the godfather of the West Coast offense, the late great Mr. Bill Walsh, it's predicated on a running attack. The Niners had a good running attack. Roger Craig made it great. And oh, by the way, 1988, he was the offensive player of the year. And you're still, and to the Pro Football Committee, even with the senior pro football, you're still not going to honor Roger Craig? Really? What is it? I want to know, what is it that has you voters, senior committee, whatever committee, all in a tiff about keeping the man who invented the 1,000 season out of the Hall of Fame? What the hell is up with that? Whatever reason you have for keeping Roger Craig out of the Hall of Fame is stupid, and you need to get the fuck over it. Yeah, I know I'm cussing. This is the last show I'm doing that too, because like I said, bringing on a lot of changes. But back to business. Whatever reason you have for keeping Roger Craig out of the Hall of Fame is a stupid fucking reason, and you need to quit it. As my wife often says to me, when I get inside my own head, quit that shit. Oh, you want a real? I will show you a play by Roger Craig that should merit him Hall of Fame status alone. Let's go to Anaheim Stadium in 1988, week number 7.
And they give those guys a little extra weight. Roger Craig still on his feet, still running. What a run by Roger Craig. You'll never see a better one than that. From 46 yards. That's going to be in a lot of highlights for a long time. What an effort by Roger Craig. John.
Listen, whenever people talk about who are my 5 greatest running backs, I always include Roger Craig in the bunch. Even with Barry Sanders and Walter Payton and Emmitt Smith, and who are some of the other greats at the time? Thurman Thomas, right? I think I mentioned him. Barry Sanders, John Riggins, all the old school backs. All of the old school backs. Now, there are some running backs that have more numbers than Roger Craig. There are some backs that have the same number of Super Bowls as Roger Craig, because Roger Craig has 3 of them. But remember 2 achievements in the Super Bowl. First of all, Roger Craig was the first to score 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. January 20th, 1985, Super Bowl 19. Okay? And the second thing, Super Bowl 23, his running may not have been great, but he caught 9 passes for 101 yards. And the only way he was overshadowed because Jerry Rice caught 11 for 215 and a touchdown. But Roger Craig was integral in that final drive where Montana not only hit Jerry Rice for a 27-yard gain, he hit Roger Craig for a 9-yard gain to get him down to the 10. They take a timeout. They come back. Montana hits Taylor in the end zone for a 10-yard pass, which was Taylor's only catch of the game. But I find it hard to believe I find it hard to believe that Roger Craig is not in the Hall of Fame. And from the looks of it, he will never see the Hall of Fame. And that's a fucking shame. That's a shame. That's a shame, and that's stupid. Matter of fact, give me this button over here. Speaking of stupid, this is how I feel about them keeping Roger Craig out of the Hall of Fame.
So I realized that I think, even though it's not advertised,
Right.
there has to be a place for stupid people. We don't know because we're not stupid, so we don't know anything about it. It's like a secret club society.
Oh my gosh.
So I come to the conclusion that he graduated from SU, stupid university. Yeah, all the stupid ass letters that go along with graduating high honors of being stupid. I can't do no more, man.
Vámonos, dominos, vamonos. Stupid university, where everyone graduates magna cum stupid.
That's how I feel about the voters and the senior committee keeping Roger Craig out of the Hall of Fame. That's how I feel. And until that changes, I don't care how many times I get invited to the Hall of Fame ceremony to Canton, Ohio. I may pay the Hall of Fame a visit as a fan. But as a media member, until you elect Roger Craig, you won't see me. Period. That's Snowman's take. What is yours?
Mister? How do you operate this Twitter thing or this Instagram thing or whatever the heck? You're supposed to know all this stuff. Anyway, welcome back to the show.
All right, let's do this shit.
Passionate,
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
unflinching,
Let's go back to losing. Parking was easier.
unrelenting,
They're not going to keep him off the field tonight!
totally
This one has a chance.
Dietz.
That's not just a murmur, that's a full-blown fibrillation.
Let's chop him down with Chris Dietz. Dietz, how are you, man?
Hey, what's going on, Snowman?
Great to have you back. It's been a while. Just great to have you back, man.
It's been way too long, but you know, it's been a good year. It's been a year so far. I can't believe it's only the end of January so far.
Can you believe that?
So much has happened in this month that it's crazy.
It is crazy. Let's just start at the top of the mountain and start cutting it down with the side of our hand. And we start in Atlanta with the national championship game. Ohio State and Notre Dame. Did the two best teams play in that championship game, in your opinion?
The two teams that deserve to make it, they won their way there. So that's the way this was designed, and that's the way it played out. The teams that won, they won their way there.
Mm-hmm.
So it is what it is. But that game did not it didn't match what we thought a national championship should be. And
I agree with that.
It didn't match in two ways. And there's a lot of ways to look at this. So I'll give you the first. I'll give you the first one, and everybody will get on me. They'll say it's an excuse, but
man, bring it.
I'm living through it right now. I've been sick all week, so being here is as hard as I can do. So I understand Notre Dame had to go through. They played Penn State with 23 players having the flu.
Yep.
Half their team had the flu.
They did.
And then you have a week to prepare for Ohio State. And as somebody who's been trying to work through, obviously not the flu, but I've been working and sick. I don't want to work. I don't want to put in the effort. So I can imagine what it's like to go through practice through the flu. So in that aspect, you could say, I mean, think about this. If this were I was thinking about it. I was thinking about this. If this were 2020 and half of a team had the flu, they would have canceled the game.
They would have.
They would have canceled the national championship game. In the years of COVID, if they came out and said half our team has the flu, they would have canceled the game. They would have either pushed the game back, until everybody was ready, or they would have just canceled it outright. Like, that's how insane it was.
And it would go in the books as not having a champion.
But that being said, that's it's an excuse. It happened, but like I said, it has to be addressed because. But the bigger issue in that game, it was experience versus non-experience, and that experience was not the players; it was on the sidelines. Marcus Freeman and his staff never coached in a championship game. Ryan Day coached in a national championship game with Justin Fields.
Yep.
Was under Urban Meyer in multiple national championship games. Okay. So he has experience in how to prepare for a national championship game, how to get his guys ready, how to go.
Right.
And oh, by the way, his offensive coordinator is Chip Kelly, who's won a national championship.
Yep.
So his coaching staff has experience in getting guys ready for a national championship, and you saw that in the production on the field.
Yes.
You saw how Notre Dame came out of the gate passive. They were not. They were as non-aggressive as you could get in what they were trying to do, and they kind of just let Ohio State run the show in the first half.
Yeah, they did,
and it showed. And what happened in the second half? They came out. They put a little pressure on. They put a little pressure on Will Howard. He fumbles the ball. Notre Dame gets the ball back. They go down and score. All of a sudden, they've got all this momentum going, and you were thinking if they just came out like that out of the gate, why couldn't they just come out of the gate like this, and then we'd have ourselves a game? But I'll give a shout out because I was listening on Papa Blood's channel. And he said it when Notre Dame scored the touchdown. He said this is too little, too late.
Yeah,
by the time Notre Dame got it going, Notre Dame got it going and they got back in the game, but they were down by so much it really didn't matter at that point.
Ohio State had already put the game to bed.
And the two biggest plays came when Notre Dame had to gamble. They had to sell out, and Judkins runs for that 85-yard run.
Yep.
And then the other play, fourth down, they had to sell out. They leave Jeremiah Smith one-on-one, and you can't leave that guy. The one guy on Ohio State, you can't leave one-on-one. He's left one-on-one down the field. He catches the ball. Ohio State kicks the field goal, and they win the game.
Ball game.
I mean,
that was ball game.
So it was. But again, all it comes down to is you had an experienced guy with an unexperienced guy, and that was it. That was the game.
That was the game. I mean, Notre Dame marched down and scored the first points of the game. And all it served to do was to wake Ohio State up because they ripped off 31.
How many times did we see that? How many times did we see that? Indiana went down, scored, and everybody said, "Oh, this is going to be a ball game." And then Ohio State got off the mat and said, "All right, you want to see what really happens," and then they went.
And they scored 38 on it. They scored 38 unanswered against Indiana, 31 answered against Notre Dame, and they put the game away. That was that. That was that. What got Ohio State, I believe, not just to the championship game, but the national championship itself. Texas had tied the game 7-7 in the semifinal. And all Texas had to do was make one stop. But they swing it out to Travion Henderson, and he does the rest. That was game, set, match.
Yeah,
in my opinion, that was it.
The running game, and Captain Jack, Jack Sawyer in that defense.
Jack Sawyer.
You knew that was going to happen. You knew that was going to happen, but that's the thing. We knew that was going to happen with Ohio State. We knew they were going to come out. They were going to establish the running game, and they were going to running game and defense and try to throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And what we didn't know is that Notre Dame was just going to let them run the ball. We thought that front four would step up and they would do some things, and they never did. They never adjusted. They just stayed in their straight defense, and Ohio State ran a rough shot on them.
And Ohio State ran them over.
And again, I don't know. I can't say if that was Marcus Freeman's game plan, if that's what they were working on all week, or if they were just saying we couldn't practice all week. Like, we didn't have bodies to practice all week, so we just stayed in our base formation. Like, so you never know how much that affected their prep, but we'll talk about the prep later on when we talk about the actual playoff, the whole playoff as a whole. We'll talk about that preparation because there's a lot there.
Well, we may as well get into that now. Let's get into that now. Start at the top of the playoff and take it down and chop it down for me.
All right. 3 things I learned from the playoff. 3 things I learned from this. Now, remember, Snowman, you've worked with me for a long time on college football, and on and eventually the NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
What's the thing I always tell you about the first year of something? Either the first year or the first week. Hold up. We're not going to make any sweeping judgments.
Right.
We're not going to say this was the greatest thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to say this was the worst disaster in the history of college football. It's the first year. Yep. This is the baseline. This what we're saying right now is not, hey, we need to make wholesale changes or whatever.
Right.
What we're pointing out now are the positives and the negatives, and we need to see, do the positives continue and do the negatives fix themselves?
Right.
Because again, this is the first year. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not going to go, berserk and say blow the whole thing up and let's start from scratch. So,
like a lot of people have been saying.
Like a lot of people want to do. A lot of people are on both sides.
Blow the whole thing up. Yep.
But there are 3 things I learned from this playoff.
The first thing
is home field matters. If you notice in the first round, all the home teams won. 2, second part of that is championship games are irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
How do I know that? Because all 4 teams that got the bye lost. Every single one. So apparently none of that mattered.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the next thing I'm going to say, this is my point number 2. The second thing I learned, and I'm saying this kind of as a joke, but it's not really a joke, is everybody who said Notre Dame needs to get into a conference, y'all can shut up.
Exactly.
Y'all can shut up. Because they just proved they don't have to be in a conference. And not only did they prove that to me, if I'm Alabama, I'm sitting here going, we can start our own network. We can go find a network. We can get CBS to come pay us money. We can leave the SEC, have football, be a football independent, and we can go 11-1 and make the playoff every year.
Yep.
Right. If I'm Texas, I'm thinking that. If I'm Georgia, I'm thinking that. If I'm any of these big time schools, look what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
You just had a national championship game where nobody played in a conference championship game. You don't need to be in a conference. Conferences are irrelevant.
Yep. Ohio State and Notre Dame proved it.
That's a bad thing to say, but it's just truly positive. And if you're one of these big schools, I'd be looking at that right there.
Mm-hmm.
The third thing about the playoff, and I'm just taking this as just the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
It's way too long.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about games. I'm not talking about the number of teams. The number of games is fine.
Mm.
But breaking this down, we had conference championship week the first weekend, or it was like December 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The first round wasn't played till December 20th.
Yeah.
The next games were January 1st.
December 31st and January 1st, New Year's weekend.
That's 11 day. That's an 11-day. So we had a 20-day break, an 11-day break.
And an 11-day break.
Then the next games weren't played until the following Friday, because New Year's Day was on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
They waited till the following Friday, so that's another 10 days.
Another 10 days.
And then the national championship game wasn't played till 10 days later, January 20th.
So a full month.
A full month
to go from first round to championship.
And here's why that's a problem. Here's why that was a problem. And you know, I wish Big Dog was on here with us because he's our NASCAR guy.
Yep.
It was like watching the Daytona 500.
Mm-hmm.
And you get 10 miles in, caution flag. 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 And you're like, okay, you're like, you know, you start and stop. There was never any momentum to anything. Like by the time the first round came around, I didn't even remember the championship. And these are people who follow the game.
Yeah.
Had a hard time thinking back to, what was the last game these guys played? You know, people have a hard time remembering what happened yesterday. Okay, I mean, we talk about things that happen. Like we talk about things that happen. And we talked about it at the beginning. It's why I brought it up. Mm-hmm. So many things have happened just in January.
Right.
That what happened a month ago got pushed. It feels like it was a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had, and this is not just football. You had the Sugar Bowl being played, and there's a terrorist attack.
Right.
You know, college football was pushed to the backdrop that week. For that week. Then you're playing the next round of your playoff, and what's happening? The first round of the NFL playoffs.
Yeah.
And guess what? When you play that on a Friday, and then there's a Saturday, Sunday, Monday NFL playoffs, guess what people are talking about Monday and Tuesday? They're talking about the NFL playoffs. They're not talking about the national championship game. Especially since they're like, it doesn't happen for another week. So they push it off. So they don't talk about it. And it just you lose everything you got from the semifinal round to the championship. All of that momentum is gone by the time the game kicks off. And that was the problem. And then and I'll get into this later on, but not only that, it just killed bowl season. Bowl season was just absolutely tarnished by we got the playoffs. We got the playoffs.
Bowl season
We're not worried about all the other games that are coming up. We're only worried about what's happening Friday night.
Bowl season was completely meaningless.
It was completely just overlooked. But college football never got what it deserved because they made the mistake. They made the mistake that so many people try to do, and you can't stress this enough. You can't battle the NFL.
No.
You're never going to win that battle. I don't care. I don't care who's playing in the games.
Right.
You're never going to win the national media battle against the NFL. The NFL playoffs, there's too much on the line. There's too much betting. There's too much fantasy implications. There's too much, the teams that are actually in the NFL playoffs, they care. Not many, the other teams that aren't in, even if they're not in, they still go. They still support the NFL, their NFL guys.
Yeah, they do.
They're not thinking about, they don't care about, the national semifinals. They don't care about that. And I've had talks with people, and normie people don't care. They did not care about the playoffs because they're like, it's a week away. We don't have to worry about that. So they what they need to do is tighten that schedule up. And my thing would be fit it in December.
The whole
fit
playoff
it in December and play and have your national semifinals on New Year's Day.
On New Year's Day. That would be
because
great.
that way you're battling the NFL at a time when no one cares about the NFL. The only people who care about the NFL in the final weeks of December are teams who are fighting for a playoff spot, and that's it.
And remember,
there's not many of those. Most of them have them locked up by then. So
and remember,
those people don't care.
There's no Monday Night Football game in Week 18. There's no Monday Night Football in Week 18.
Right, there's no reason not to play it there, not to play a game, not to have one of your games there.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, you're not going to win a battle against the NFL playoff. You're never going to win that.
And you're
going to get pushed to the back, and then you throw on, like I said, you throw on all the other outside stuff when we have terrorist attacks. We had a new president sworn in. Like
you took the exact thought out of my head because they played the national championship on the same day we had a new president sworn in. You can't make this up.
You just can't. You can't battle that. You can't battle this stuff.
You can't make this up.
It just makes bad things. But that being said, that's the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got to look at it from the other perspective, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked this. I asked Papa Blood about this. I'll ask you about this. I would wonder what the chat would think, and I'll ask you this question, Snowman.
All right.
And think long and hard about this one. All right. From 1 to 5, 5 being greatest season you've ever seen, 1 being 0 being completely irrelevant. Where would you rank this season of college football?
Do I have to answer that question?
I know my answer.
I can't rank it because it was so topsy-turvy. And then the turvy part being the bowl season being irrelevant, the playoff being pushed to the back burner. I cannot. What is your ranking? Because mine is pretty low, honestly.
Mine's a 2.
That's where mine is.
Mine's a 2.
That's where mine is.
And I'll tell you right now, and there are multiple reasons. There are multiple reasons for that. I mean, we've discussed the death of the Heisman, the death of the Heisman Trophy. That plays a little bit into it.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing about it is, you think about what I just asked you is, was it an interesting season? Go back and look at the games in this season.
Mm-hmm.
What was the game? Every year we usually have a game of the century.
Yeah.
Was there one this year? No. Not at all.
No. Not
at all. Did any of the games matter this year? Did any of the games played in the regular season matter this year?
No.
Or Oregon beat Ohio State. Wait,
mm-hmm.
They lost. They played again. We watched the game again in the playoff, and
Ohio State whooped their ass.
We watched Georgia play Texas twice,
and Georgia beat Texas twice.
We watched teams lose games in the last week of the season. Didn't affect them. They still got in the playoffs. They still a team that lost their final regular season game won the national championship.
Yep, Ohio State.
You can't tell me that. Every Saturday matters when the last Saturday they lost. They got in and they still won the national championship.
Mm-hmm.
So what basically has happened, and again, like I said, this is year 1, but it seems like all the relevance of the regular season, which was the essence of college football. The essence of college football was the most meaningful regular season of any sport.
Mm-hmm.
They've basically taken that and said, who cares? We don't want that. And you think about it, and it goes back to what I was saying about, college football was never, it was never really talked about. Even during the playoff, it was never talked about, but it was never talked about during the season.
No,
during the season, there was never you got to watch this game. This game is going to matter. This game is going to tell us who's in or who's out.
There was no real game of the week. There was no real game of the week that stood out. amongst the schedule or
and I brought up the game of the century. I mean, how many times did we hear, during and people said about the BCS era of the BCS era was so bad. How many times did we see LSU Alabama as the game of the century?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the game of it was the game that mattered. That whoever won that game, you knew they were going on places.
Because one year it was 9-6 LSU in overtime. Another year it was a high scoring game, like 43-37.
Right.
Or something of that nature. You knew that game was going to decide something later on.
But you knew the winner was going to be pole vault. You knew the winner was going to pole vault themselves up, and you knew the loser was going to be devastating. You knew the loss was going to be devastating for whoever was in that game.
Mm-hmm.
What now? When we watch, we're going to be thinking, oh well, if they lose this game, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They lose, they could still get in.
And one of the most perfect examples was September 7th, Notre Dame against Northern Illinois at home at Notre Dame Stadium in front of Touchdown Jesus. Northern Illinois pulled the upset. What happened? Notre Dame runs the table and they get into the playoff and they get all the way to the national championship game.
Yeah, it was that was so that's my biggest complaint, and that was my biggest complaint about the playoff. Mm-hmm. It's not about how many teams are in. It's how you select these teams and make it so the regular season matters.
So
if you ruin the regular season, you're going to ruin college football.
So I'll borrow a question from you, and you did this when we started breaking down the playoff matchups. What are we doing here? I'll borrow that question from you.
I was asking the whole thing, and like we
you
said,
were asking that the whole season when the schedule came out.
Bowl season was always a fun time.
Yeah,
and this season it just seemed like all of a sudden you were like, oh, there's a bowl game on. Like there was no preparation. There was no like, hey, we got a bowl game tonight. Like they were never breaking down who's going to play in the Outback.com bowl. Like they used to break this stuff down. They didn't even break them down this year. They were just like, oh, here's the playoff teams. By the way, there's another game on tonight.
They were all about the playoff. They gave no luster to the bowl games whatsoever. ESPN didn't do it. CBS didn't do it. Nothing.
Nobody.
Nothing. It was all about the playoff and nothing else. Not even the bowl game or the venue where it was played was put on the back burner. It was all about which teams are in the playoff. We don't care where they're playing. When's the next one? That's all they were about this year.
But I did see one. I did see one thing, and I have to ask you because you went to sports. You did sports journalism at Northwestern, right?
I did.
So I gotta ask you about journalism. I took one journalism class, and it wasn't real. It wasn't real for me. It was an elective, so I just
I studied at Chicago State. I studied at NU. I know the voice of the Wildcats and Dave Ennett. He's taught me so much, and Bill Baker for Northern Illinois.
But I gotta ask you about. Do they teach this stuff in class? Do they teach sports journalists state the obvious and make it sound amazing? Listen to this headline I saw about the college football playoff. This was in USA Today.
Let's hear it.
I could not imagine this. This is the headline. College football playoff, a success. More people watched college football playoff games this year than any other year.
Get the f out of here with that.
Yeah, and I looked at the headline and I was like, yeah, no doubt. There were 11 playoff games.
Exactly.
There were 3 last year. There were 3 playoff games last year.
You had 11.
Of course, more people watched. What are we doing?
Okay. Like you said, what the hell are we doing here?
I was like,
you've been asking, and I praise you so
obvious.
much, like, and make it and sensationalize it. I was not taught that at all.
Okay, because it happens all the time, and I'm like, I always look at these, and I'm like, do you realize this makes you look? And I'm gonna use this word. I don't mean mentally challenged. I mean it the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
It makes them look retarded.
Yeah,
it is so dumb. To like, yes, of course, more people watched. There were 11 games. More people are going to watch.
Well, think about it. Sensationalizing the obvious is journalism. They call it journalism. I don't.
It just, but I was like, that's what you're using to call this a success.
That's what you're doing to hype it up for next year.
If you want to call that a success, I don't know what to tell you. But like I said, first year, we got there were great things in it. We saw a lot of different style teams in. We had upsets. Mm-hmm. That's always good. We had a team that was, both teams played in the first round.
And
both teams that made it to the national championship played in the first round. So we look at that and we say, all right, there's some success there.
Yeah.
The negatives, it's pretty easy to fix. Change up the schedule, make the playoff games quicker, and not quicker in length. I mean, quicker and don't give us a 20-day period and a 10-day period. Give us, split that up, and you've got something to work with. You've got a template to work with.
Yeah.
So I think if they can shore those things up, it might clear a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the essence of college football is regular season.
It is.
And your regular season has to build. It has to build on it. It has to build up to the end. If your regular season, if you do what you did this year, where the regular season is malaise,
mm-hmm.
then nobody's going to care about the playoff.
Right.
You have to be building a crescendo. And you have to get it to where you're the loudest at the end.
Yeah.
That's what has to happen. And that's the problem with this formula that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this all the time. I think the biggest thing would be get rid of the conference championships.
Yep.
Because
they're irrelevant now. A,
they're irrelevant, and B, most people, that's all they care. That's all most people care about. For diehard fans, Georgia's going to go out and say, "We won the SEC." I mean, I know I'm still waiting on Michigan fans. Still waiting on Michigan fans to say, "Yeah, Ohio State, you won a national championship, but did you win the Big Ten?"
Yep. Did you beat us?
That's troll 101. That's troll 101 right there.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan. I haven't seen one Michigan fan say that, and I was like, "Come on!" I was like, "That was the first thing I thought when Ohio State won." I was like,
"I was
like, you gotta hit them
for it." I was waiting for it, man. All right, we're up against. All right, we're up against the break. That's Chris Dietz. Totally Dietz is back. Of course, he's going to cover the draft with us. He's going to cover the NFL with us in its off season. And next Thursday, we will break down Super Bowl 59. Dietz, I thank you so much, my man. I appreciate it.
No problem, and I'll give you extra promo.
All right.
Because you know how we cover the Super Bowl on Totally Dietz.
Mm-hmm.
Prop bets. Get your books ready.
Man.
Prop bet. Super Bowl prop bets.
Prop bets. I can't wait for this year's prop bets.
Oh, I can't wait.
You and I have done the prop bets every year since you've been on the program with me, and since you were doing the Fit Down Sports Show. And I put a little cheese on a couple of those bets, and they paid off for me when I was living in Terre Haute, Indiana. So the prop bets are on next week. when we break down the Super Bowl on Totally Dietz. Thank you, partner. Appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
Passionate.
Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Unflinching.
Let's go back to losing. Parking was easier.
Unrelenting.
They're not going to keep him off the field tonight.
Totally.
This one has a chance.
Dietz.
That's not just a murmur, that's a full-blown fibrillation.